Um, Next to the conventional treatment methods, we discuss about the low-cost treatment methods. So the next term, that is the sustainable wastewater treatment. And in that, we are going to discuss about the wetland plants or constructed wetland plants. Okay. So sustainable uh, wastewater treatment. So generally, approaches of the sustainable wastewater treatment is the waste minimization. That is one thing. Next, wastewater conservation and very low cost treatment. As we know, the conventional wastewater treatment having the huge cost of installation, huge cost of operation and maintenance. Okay, that's why we need some low cost treatment methods. Okay, so these are some approaches to sustainable wastewater treatment, like waste minimization, wastewater conservation, and low cost treatment. Sustainable treatment plants, which help benefit from warmer temperature, use of little mechanization, utilization of minimum electric power, reuse and recycle of groundwater recharge, industrial use land irrigation, implementation of zero discharge concept, acceptable, affordable, and manageable for a long time. So these are some of the sustainable treatment plants. Next, emerging treatment technologies. So what are the new technologies which we can use for the treatment of wastewater? Okay. So developed to overcome the limitations. So naturally best technology offer opportunities for resource recovery. So what are the advantage of emerging treatment technology? So first thing is cost effectiveness. Next, low technical manpower requirement, easy of operation and maintenance, negligible sludge production, reduce distance of wastewater conveyance. So these are some advantages of the emerging treatment technology, like cost effectiveness, low technical manpower requirement, easy of operation and maintenance, negligible sludge production, and reduce the distance of wastewater conveyance. So now what are the treatment technologies that we can use for the treatment of wastewater? So the first thing is the constructed wetland. Next, vermifilter or biofiltration and sand filter. Okay, so the sand filter also we can use for the treatment of water. Okay, but now we are going to discuss about the wastewater treatment. So the treatment technologies for wastewater are the constructed wetland, then vermifilter or vermi biofiltration, also the sand filters. Next, the anaerobic UASB, that's membrane supported system, anaerobic sludge blanket reactor, and the phytoremediation system. Okay, so these are the various technologies which we can use for the treatment of wastewater. Okay. So in constructed wetland plants, we can use the wetland plants, and from that we can treat the wastewater. Secondly, the vermi biofilter, in which we can use the earthworms for the treatment of wastewater, so that we can treat that wastewater by removing the organic matter or organic solid from that waste. Okay, so biofilter or vermi biofilter. So biofilter is without the worms, and vermifilter is with the use of earthworms. So vermifilter or either biofilter that we can use for the treatment of wastewater. So the structure of the vermi biofilter with the gravel supported, with the sand and with the soil for the earthworms, and whatever that working happen at the top layer of the soil where the earthworms survive, and organic matter it oxidizes. Okay, and after the passing of water through the filter, it gets purified. So that the working of vermi biofilter and biofiltration is the same as like sand filters. So the constructed wetland and vermi biofilter and biofilter and USB techniques and phytoremediation system. These are the various emerging treatment technologies we can use for the treatment of wastewater. Okay, so these are the cost-effective treatments, low-cost treatments, low technical manpower requirement, easy in operation and maintenance, and also which produce the less sludge or negligible sludge production. Okay, so regarding the vermi biofilter and biosand filter, we'll discuss later. So, on the constructed wetland. So, the constructed wetland components, what are the components of the constructed wetlands? So, a constructed wetland, it is nothing but a shallow basin with the wetland plants. Okay, so it's a simple concept, just uh, excavate the trenches and just allow to settle down the water and just plant wetland plants. That is simply the shallow basin composed of the constructed wetland plants. Okay, so this constructed wetland plants is the shallow basin which consists the water, next supporting medium, next vegetation, and next microorganism. Okay, so water, which that is nothing but the wastewater, which we are going to treat by using the wetland plants. Supporting medium for the support to the wetland plants, we can use the gravel, then we can use the sand, we can use grit, we can use plastic as also supporting medium, and also we can use the charcoal. So these are the various supporting medium we can use as a supporting medium or support medium for the constructed wetland. Okay, in shallow basin, gravel, sand, grit, plastic, and charcoal. Next, vegetation. So vegetation are classified into the three types. So emergent vegetation, submerged vegetation, and floating vegetation. Okay. So submerged vegetation is totally submerged into the water bodies. The floating, which are float over the water bodies, and emergent with the combination of both. Okay. The next, microorganism. So the microorganism are the nothing but the two types of organism, that is aerobic organism and the anaerobic organism. Okay, so according to action they are classified into aerobic organism and anaerobic organism, and according to growth they are classified into suspended growth and it is attached growth. So when the organism growth on any media, that is called as the attached growth, and when the organism growth in water bodies in a suspension, that is called as suspended growth. Okay. So according to the growth of microorganism, they are classified as attached microorganism and suspended microorganism, and according to action they are classified into aerobic microorganism and anaerobic microorganism. The next, the constructed wetland. What is the meaning of constructed wetland? So meaning of constructed wetland, it is nothing but the shallow basin filled with the substrate. Okay, there is a shallow earthen basin filled with the wastewater, and that wastewater planted with the vegetation. That vegetation is nothing but the constructed wetland. Okay, so it is a shallow earthen basin with the substrate and planted with the vegetation, and water flows over the surface or through the substrate. Okay, so surface or either it be substrate, that is water supporting medium. Okay, so water flows over the surface or through the substrate. Okay, so what is the component of the wetland plants? So the first is the wastewater. It is one of the uh, wastewater. It may be the sewage wastewater or maybe industrial wastewater, which is going to be treated by the wetland plants. So the wastewater is the main component. Next, supporting medium. It may be gravel, it may be the sand, it may be the charcoal, it may be the plastic, sediments. Next, vegetation, that is the wetland plants, and finally the microorganism. Okay. So these are all the basic four parts of the constructed wetlands. Okay. So what are the parts? The first one is the wastewater. Next, support medium. Next, vegetation, and next microorganism. Okay, so these are the four component parts of the constructed wetlands. So these are the various species of the wetland plants. Okay, so you can see this is the water hyacinth, that is the floating over the surface, that is you can say the floating vegetation, water hyacinth. Next, submerged plant, which is totally submerged underwater, that is called as submerged plant. And next, duckweed, that is below water and above water, that is cattle and bulrush. These are the example of the duckweed. So these are the various species as we already discussed earlier. That is the it is emergent, submerged, and floating type vegetation or wetland plants, and these are the water hyacinth, which floating over the surface, submerged plant, which below the water level, and the duckweed, that is cattle and bulrush, which is over the water and below the ground, that is earth. Okay, so whatever the organic matter you can see, which is settled down at the bed of the river or bed of the water. Okay, or whatever the supporting media. So this is what the structure of the constructed wetland plants. Okay, so the basin where the organic matter, which nothing but the waste water or whatever that organic waste which present in wastewater, and the wastewater which supported with the plants, that is wetland plants. Okay, so these are some example of the wetland plants, that is water hyacinth, submerged plant, and cattle and bulrush. These are also the some of the very important species which are used in wetland plant and the treatment of wastewater. Okay. So day-to-day life, we can see this type of plants nearby the lake and nearby the water. Okay. So what are these different species of wetland plant? Like you can see the Helicona, then Cyperus, then Cirrus, then Canna indica, then Typha latifolia, then Phragmites australis. Okay, and this. Okay, so these are the various species which are mostly used in the wetland plant and the treatment of wastewater. Okay, so these are can found along the side of the river or water. We can found this type of wetland plants in our areas. Okay, so what are that? Cyperus, then Cirrus, then Helicona, Canna indica, Typha latifolia, okay, and Phragmites species. So these are various types of constructed wetland plants which we can use in the treatment of wastewater, and these are the various species of constructed wetland which we can use for a wetland plant system or treatment of wastewater. These the fragments. Okay, so we can see this below the water and above the water level. So 80% biomass is in the roots and 20% in the green tops. Okay. So the root extends up to 0.6 to 0.8 meter and even up to 1 meter in warmer climates. Okay. So roots that going to be deeper, and it is up to 0.8 to 1 meter in the warmer climates. Okay. These are the vegetation in constructed wetland. Okay, so that is we already discussed what are the three types of vegetation that we can use in constructed wetland. So vegetations in constructed wetland are the emergent vegetation, submerged vegetation, and the floating vegetation. Okay, so in emergent vegetation, that is cattle and bulrush. Submerged vegetation is totally below the water, and floating vegetation which float over the water. Okay, and uh, having the roots below the water level and which floats over the water level, that is called as the floating vegetations, and that root act as a treatment method. That root act as a system of treatment where they can treat that wastewater and which we can remove at the outlet of the system. Okay, in floating vegetation. So basically, these are the three types of vegetation in constricted wetland: emergent vegetation, that is cattle and bulrush; then submerged vegetation, where you can see inflow and outflow; and similarly the floating vegetation, in which you can see the inflow and outflow, and the treatment that can be done by the root system of floating vegetation. So how we purify, or what is the purification mechanism? So purification mechanism is the first physical, chemical, and the biological. Okay, so the purification mechanism include all the three process: physical process, chemical process, and biological process.